This is Red Eyes Creations Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Nice to have you with us. If you are listening for the first time, a warm welcome. My name is Henrik Palmgren. RedEyesCreations.com is our website where we have frequently updated news, our radio archive, videos, film, links, resources, and much more. We are based out of Sweden, Scandinavia. We discuss and highlight everything from conspiracy and spirituality to the occult, the esoteric, new technology and science, philosophy, history, secret societies, geopolitics, religion, and so much more. We are here doing radio interviews on Thursdays and Sundays with interesting guests for your consideration. We do not tell you what to think or what you should believe. We try to present the information in the best way we can to help highlight the research of authors, filmmakers, and other researchers and bring their information to your attention. And ultimately, we think that you should make up your own mind about the subjects that we cover, question the material, and of course continue the search for yourself if you find it interesting. I also want to mention here at the beginning that on Sunday, the 28th of September, at 7 p.m. GMT, we are going to start up Red Eyes Live, and that means audio and video feeds from our studio. And this is going to be more like TV than radio. This is interviews with clips, film excerpts, images, videos, photographs, or other graphs for that matter, any kind of visual aid that we can use in order to go even deeper in explaining the many subjects that we cover on this radio program. And our first guest will be Daniel Tatman. We'll go further into architecture and symbolism, and this is going to be really awesome. We'll be able to show you some of the stuff that we've been talking about with Daniel during our mini-series. So this is a whole new level to Red Eyes. You might have seen the first live program that we did several months ago. Well, this is going to be so much more than that. We thought that we could do a whole lot better, and we have. So we've gotten a whole new system that will enable us to have a whole lot more freedom when it comes to what content we'll be able to run during the live programs. So click on the Red Eyes Live banner on our front page, redeyescreations.com, and you can read more about this. So again, on Sunday, the 28th of September at 7 p.m. GMT, we want you to tune in live as we're going to start this up nice and easy. So that's going to be really interesting starting that up again. Okay, so today we are going to talk about all things 2012, theories, prophecies, and prediction. We have author and researcher Geoff Stray with us. He is the author of Beyond 2012, Catastrophe or Ecstasy, a complete guide to the end of time predictions. I also heard Ian Crane mention last time we had him on the program that there is a pocket version available with the title 2012 in your pocket, I believe, and we're going to talk about these books, of course, later on in the program. I also want to mention, of course, that Geoff is behind the website diagnosis2012.co.uk. And if you've done any searching at all online about 2012, you've bound to have stumbled across some material over at diagnosis2012.co.uk. It's a vast resource with tons of material about everything and around 2012. Highly recommended. Head on over there and do check it out. It's great stuff up there for you. So with that, let's say welcome to our guest. Geoff, thanks for coming on Red Eyes Creations Radio. Very nice of you to join us today.
Well, thanks very much, Henrik. It's good to be here.
Many years ago, I stumbled across your website. I've spent many hours reading articles and entries posted on your site, and I'd be love to hear a little bit about your background. Primarily kind of what sparked your interest, and also, of course, when you started up your website, and what kind of motivated you to do that.
Well, it was back in 1982. I'd been reading the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson, and I managed to get hold of Cosmic Trigger, The Final Secret of the Illuminati, which was the book in which he explained all the weird stuff that led him to write the trilogy and the stuff that happened during writing it and after writing it, the coincidences and synchronicities. And in that book, there was a section where he summarised the work of Terence and Dennis McKenna in their book The Invisible Landscape. And I was so fascinated by that summary. I tried to get hold of a copy of that book, and it took me 10 months to get it in the end. And I managed to get it from the library, but they only let me have it for a week, so I had to photocopy the book. And I was studying it for the next 5 years, actually, on and off. And it was in 1987 when I was reading it for the third time that I found that Jose Arguelles had produced this book called The Mayan Factor.
Yes.
And, there we have, Arguelles had made McKenna had made the point in The Invisible Landscape that the I Ching was, I'll explain what it was about. It's, basically, him and Dennis, his brother, went down to the Ecuador rainforest to try and sample some ayahuasca before anyone but anthropologists had heard about it. And the combination that they had in the end, as you know, this is a hallucinogenic brew that the shamans down in the rainforests use.
Yes.
To access all the states of consciousness. And they'd heard this story that out of the pores and orifices of the shamans comes this luminous blue substance that they can mold into a magical kind of material that they use to perform their magic with, but it's only visible to those who've also partaken of the brew. So they were so fascinated, they tried to get down there and sample it. And they actually ended up having they smoked the skin of the vine, the ayahuasca vine, and combined it with psilocybin mushroom. It was quite a close chemical approximation of what people have when they have the ayahuasca brew, because psilocybin is a close relative of dimethyltryptamine, the active constituent that they put in the brew from various plants, depending on what area of the rainforest they're operating from.
Yes.
Anyway, to cut a long story short, Dennis was so fascinated by what had happened that he became a psychopharmacologist to try and explain how they'd accessed all this information from the nucleus of the DNA and how the drug molecule opens up the DNA and accesses that information from the nucleus. That's what fascinated him. But Terence was fascinated by the information they got explaining that all that happens in the universe is encoded into the ancient Chinese oracle, the I Ching, which is the Book of Changes. So he went back to USA and hired what was then a very advanced computer, and they basically converted all the information in the King-Wen sequence of the I Ching into an equation, and then converted the equation into a graph and fractalized the graph so the same pattern was encapsulated within it at smaller and smaller levels, so it would then explain all the change in the universe from subatomic event levels right up to the level where you have the beginning of time to the end of time. So once they'd done that, they then had to calculate where we were on the wave, and they did that by correlating a big peak on the wave to the explosion of the bomb at Hiroshima in 1945. And then there's 384 lines in the I Ching, 6 times 64, because it's 64 hexagrams of 6 lines each, which are each a combination of yin and yang.
Yes.
And so the 384 lines, McKenna sort of made a good case that those were originally a lunar calendar, 384 days in 13 lunar months, so like one lunar year. So you had a lunar calendar from China, and once they'd correlated this big peak near the end of the wave to this explosion of the Hiroshima bomb, it was exactly 64 384-day years after that point on the wave that the wave hits the baseline. And that's maximum novelty, and that only happens twice on the whole wave, at the beginning, at the end, which theoretically he thought was the beginning of time and the end of time.
Yes.
And so 64 384-day years after that event in 1945 brought them to the 17th of November 2012. And the whole thing fascinated me, and I got to studying it. But then when 5 years later, I was looking at it for the third time, and then came across the Mayan Factor by Jose Arguelles that showed that there was this solar-based calendar system from the other side of the world that's it's over 3,000 years. Well, it's well over 2,000 years old anyway. It's depending on what stories you believe, but or whether you take it back to the beginning of the Olmecs. But it's over 2,000 years old, but the I Ching from the other side of the world is a lunar system, according to McKenna's findings, which is well over 4,000 years old, and they're both terminating within 34 days of each other. So when McKenna later found out about the Maya calendar, he then brought out the new edition of his book in 1993 and sort of updated the endpoint to coincide with the Maya calendar. So, I mean, that's what... When I realised in '87 that there was two systems from the opposite side of the world with this amazing coincidental endpoint, that's what set me off on the search to find out if there's any other ancient sources or places that this may have been recorded.
Yeah, because I guess most people that have in some way or another encountered 2012 obviously think about the end of the Mayan calendar, but as you say, there's so many more sources that seem to point towards this date, of course. I mean, if we were to talk about, for instance, the overview of the theories that are out there, we could either talk about what potentially could be happening at the end date or what have you. If we assume that we're talking here to someone who never heard about 2012 before, is there any kind of easy way to explain to them in a nutshell, if you will, what 2012 is about and what the potential end date is all about?
Well, what we have really is a collection of theories about what it could be, and some of them are more convincing than others. Some theories, as I found, were based on faulty information, and they can, although most of these ideas have some validity in them, I mean, there's no point in throwing out the whole of something because there's a mistake in it. Sometimes,
of course, yeah,
they've discovered something important, although they've made a big mistake. But some of them are more convincing than others, and the most convincing ones are the ones that sort of tie up prophecies, theories, and astronomical facts. Those are the ones that really seem to sort of are the ones that I find more compelling. So. Very often people do say to me, in a nutshell, can you sum it all up in a couple of sentences? Well, a couple of sentences is quite difficult.
Yes.
But I do have I got some favourite scenarios because they're, some favourite bits that all seem to fit together.
Yeah, it must be, of course. I mean, have you been like into this on a full-time basis or kind of a hobby basis since basically 1982 or 87 then, is that correct?
Yes, I was round about, but from 82 to 87 I was just studying the invisible landscape. Right. And from 87 onwards I was looking into Maya material and looking for other outcroppings of this in writings. So I was going into bookshops and looking through bookshelves and looking through the indexes and scanning them, just trying to find anything that might refer to this endpoint, or sort of looking at prophecies of all sorts. Yes. Anywhere I thought there might be some information.
And much of this material, of course, you have gathered at your website. When did you first start up Diagnosis 2012?
That was started in September of year 2000. I kind of held back over the Y2K period, year 2000, because there were all these stories that there was going to be a big computer meltdown. So I held off till after 2000, and from February, March 2000, when I bought the computer, until September, that's when I was putting it all together from all my notes. And then, of course, I'd been going in internet cafes and surfing in internet cafes for a couple of years as well. So I'd got quite a lot of leads to follow up on the net. And by that point, I joined a crop circle club in Sussex in 1997. And